present in court with counsel. Anything the record of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything the record of the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
We may invite the jury in, please.
Detective Gay, when we had stopped, you were telling us what it was that John Chadwick Richardson told you when you interviewed him.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell us what that was?
Mr. Richardson just described how he and the defendant had entered into a more than therapy type relationship where they'd just been talking, discussing music, things of that nature, started talking about potentially hanging out with each other a little bit more, and there had been some plans to either him go to her house or for him to travel to visit her. I believe at one point in time he did participate in a music session with her band at a bar one evening, and maybe a rehearsal. They actually had plans to get together the evening or the Sunday after the death of the victim in this case. He had shown me some text messages through the course that he had through the course of texting back and forth with the defendant, and I was able to view those during the interview. He said that during one of those text messages he was asking how things had gone, and I asked him to describe that, and he mentioned that he had had a conversation with her to the effect that she was talking about trying to ask Jose to leave the residence. At some point in time he received a text stating that she had tried to do that, and I believe he actually quoted in one of the text messages, quoted, "It got ugly."
Now that's after the death of Mr. Perez actually had occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Richardson indicate to you that they had quite a bit of texting before that day?
Yes.
And had he indicated to you that they had spent time together on more than one occasion?
Yes, he did.
On the 15th of June 2013, what did Mr. Richardson indicate was the nature of the conversation through text messaging between himself and the defendant?
If I can have a moment. On the report, he mentioned that during that Saturday the 15th that there was some text messagings going through and some communication where she had described she was going to South Carolina, and at some point in time she may ask Jose to leave.
And you indicated earlier that Mr. Richardson said he was supposed to see the defendant on Sunday the 16th of June 2013. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And was she originally supposed to come over there to his house in the morning?
She was supposed to go over that morning, but Mr. Richardson's daughters were still at the residence, so they delayed that meeting.
And what time did he tell you that she had come over to his home?
For her to come over sometime between 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m.
And at some point while she was over there, what did he say happened?
That when she was there, she had gotten a telephone call from her daughter. He remembered hearing her say a couple of remarks. I noted them as, "Why are they there and what are they asking?" And a few moments later, Ms. Madonna left his residence.
Did he have further contact with her after she left his house?
He stated he had tried to text her a little bit later on and ask her if she was okay, and she responded, no, he died.
And did he further contact her?
Said that he tried to text her later that evening, asked her if she needed anything, and she did not respond.
What did Mr. Richardson, if anything, tell you about what the defendant said to him about her marriage?
She would describe that it was in very bad shape, that she married Jose because he was supposed to have had cancer and he was going to be dying soon. She was supposed to receive a lot of benefits from his death, and Chad told me he remembered Joanna telling him during one conversation that she had sex out of obligation to the marriage and that she never enjoyed it.
Did he tell you about further conversation that he, Mr. Richardson, and the defendant had about their future together?
They talked about having a relationship with one another after Jose was out of the house, and the two of them were going to be free to move forward with their relationship once Jose had left.
And he indicated to you that he had met Jose on one occasion?
Yes.
And what did he say about that?
He said that that was when he was playing at a bar. They were at a bar in Raleigh. He believed that to be on or about June 8th. He said Jose was a nice guy and having a good time, and he did not notice any problems with Jose at all. He had never met him or talked to him any other times other than that night.
Now, did you say that you looked at Mr. Richardson's phone while he was telling you about his texting with the defendant?
Yes, we did.
And were you able to read the texts that he told you about as well as some others?
Yes, I did.
And given the information that was on his phone, did you determine that it would be a good idea to download that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you do that?
At that point in time, asked Mr. Richardson if he would consent to us looking at his phone or downloading the records on his phone for us to be able to keep for the investigation. Very quickly he answered yes, he had no problems, he was fully cooperating, and at that point in time asked to make communication with our TSU unit or technical surveillance unit to come up, and it was Investigator Scott that came up and got Mr. Richardson's phone, and using the Celebrite machine that was described earlier, he downloaded the information from that phone.
And what happened with the phone afterwards?
It was returned to Mr. Richardson.
You, after talking with Mr. Richardson, you interviewed a number of other people, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
One of those people was William Lopez in Inman, South Carolina, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do that?
That interview took place on June 27th, 2013.
And tell us about that.
Myself and Investigator Weaver had gone to Inman, South Carolina to meet with Michelle Lopez and William Lopez regarding information they may have, as well as their son. We went down there. I interviewed Mr. Lopez. His statement to me was that he was...
Before you get to that, what is it that made you know that they even existed so that you went down there?
We had determined, looking through some of the electronic files, that there was a GPS track that had gone out of state on the day prior to what we believe to be the death of Mr. Perez. Based on that, we did some background information and located some family members in South Carolina.
And those are the people that were in Inman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so go ahead and tell us what William Lopez told you.
That he was the brother of John Lopez, who was now deceased and had lived in Arizona at a previous time, and he was now living there, and he was married to Michelle Lopez. At this point in time, they were not married. He was living in an apartment up in Spartanburg, and Michelle Lopez was living in Inman, South Carolina.
Now, it's a little bit confusing because we've got two Michelle Lopez's. Who is the Michelle Lopez that you're talking about was living in Inman?
She would be the young lady that testified earlier this week. That is the father of William Lopez, who is now, excuse me, the mother of William Lopez, who is now deceased. She would be the sister-in-law at the time, or that's not correct, would it be?
William Lopez was the brother-in-law of the defendant.
Yes.
And the Michelle Lopez that you're talking about is the sister-in-law of the defendant.
Yes.
And she's the lady who was Michelle Lopez at the time, but is now Michelle Lopez Parrish.
Yes, ma'am.
So William Lopez wasn't living in Inman at that time, is that right?
No, ma'am.
He was living in Spartanburg.
Yes, ma'am.
And Michelle Lopez Parrish was in Inman.
Yes, ma'am.
So now tell us what Mr. William Lopez, the brother-in-law of the defendant, told you.
And he goes by Billy, that we talked with Billy. He said that they had reached out a while back. They were trying to make contact with some old family members, and they'd been able to make contact on Facebook with either Michelle Lopez or her mother, Ms. Madonna. At some point in time, contact was made, and there were some interactions back and forth on Facebook, and that led to the opportunity for family members to kind of reconnect. He described how the Rachel Lopez and Michelle Lopez would come and visit on several occasions, and Miss Madonna had visited him on a previous occasion as well.
And when you spoke to William Lopez, what did he tell you about how frequently he had actually had face-to-face contact with this defendant at his home?
I believe he said one time.
And when did she tell you that one time was?
I believe he was referring to the Saturday prior to Mr. Perez's death.
The June 15th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, and he indicated to you that the defendant's daughter, Michelle, had visited several times.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you exactly how the visit by the defendant on June 15th, 2013 unfolded?
That she was going to come down and visit. She wanted to visit his sick son because he was not doing very well at the time, and she planned to come down and see them for a short period of time. She arrived in the area, I believe, picked him up, and then he gave her directions on how to get to Michelle Lopez Parrish's residence.
So the defendant went first to Spartanburg
Yes.
and then to Inman.
Yes, ma'am.
And how far apart are Spartanburg and Inman?
They're relatively close, 20, 25 minutes at the most.
And did Mr. Lopez indicate to you about what time the defendant got to his residence?
I'm not sure if I indicated. If you can give me one moment, I may be able to
Sure.
find it in my report. I'm right off at glancing at my report.
Did William Lopez indicate to you that once the defendant arrived at his home in Spartanburg that they went directly to Michelle Lopez Parrish's house?
As I recall, he mentioned that there was some conversation about a firearm at some point in time, and they might have visited a pawn shop.
What else did he tell you?
That they eventually ended up at Michelle Lopez Parrish's residence. While they were there, there was conversation about a couple of family things, but various weapons and everything of that nature. At some point in time during our interview, he mentioned that there had also been an attempt to possibly try and purchase a firearm from a pawn shop in the area that he may have knowledge of. She did not have enough money to buy a decent firearm, so they did not make a purchase at that point in time. While they were at the Ms. Michelle Parrish's residence, they had additional conversations and about firearms, her being fearful of things going on in the neighborhood.
What specifically did she tell him she was afraid of in her neighborhood?
That there had been break-ins and things in her neighborhood, and she feared for the safety of her family.
Now, when you said there was conversation about guns and different kinds of guns, who initiated the conversation according to Mr. Lopez when he talked to you?
My understanding is that Ms. Madonna did.
And did he indicate to you that she was asking specific kinds of questions or specific questions about weapons or handguns in particular?
As they were talking about some of the weapons, she would ask a question as, is this strong enough to kill somebody?
Objection, Your Honor. This doesn't corroborate or impeach anything that Mr. Lopez said during his testimony.
Okay.
Did what happened after the conversations by the defendant about break-ins in her neighborhood and being fearful, what happened about with guns after that?
Mr. Lopez told me that his son offered one of his firearms to Ms. Madonna.
And did he tell you what kind of firearm that was?
He believed it to be a .380 revolver.
And tell us what additionally Mr. Lopez said about that situation.
There was just more conversation about the firearm and questions that she asked about that particular firearm.
What did Mr. Lopez say about the defendant's departure from Ms. Parrish's residence?
It was relatively quick after the firearm was offered to her.
Did he indicate that anything in addition to a firearm was given?
I believe he indicated that a knife had been given to her.
Did Mr. Lopez indicate to you during your conversation with him that the defendant asked him on more than one occasion or more than once while she was there about the cost of guns?
Yes, they did have a conversation about the cost of firearms and
How
how.
many times did he say she asked about getting a gun?
Objection, Your Honor. He didn't speak about that during his testimony at all.
Okay.
Did he indicate to you that he had any further contact with the defendant after she left that day?
I don't believe so.
And when you participated in the search, going back to the search of the 12412 Schoolhouse Road address, do you recall the Taurus 380 box or a Taurus 380 box being located?
I do.
And do you recall where that was located?
I believe it was found in the bedroom closet,
Which bedroom?
the master bedroom closet.
And what about the box of MagTech ammunition?
That was found in close proximity to the Taurus handgun box.
And you said that you collected documents from various areas in the house, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the garage.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we were talking about earlier all of the things that were found in trash bags, you indicated that there were papers that had been thrown out that belonged to Mr. Perez that you found.
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach?
Yes, ma'am.
I've placed in front of you what has been marked as State Exhibit number 55. Could you identify that for us, and if so, tell us what it is?
State's Exhibit 55 is a brown paper bag which I've indicated contains miscellaneous IDs, bank cards, and papers of Jose Perez. It has my evidence card on it as well as my signature on some of the tape seals.
Could you open State's Exhibit 55, please?
Yes, ma'am. I recognize these.
And what are the items that are inside of the bag marked as State's Exhibit 55?
There's some various cards IDs and what appeared to be personal effects as far as paper effects for Mr. Perez.
If you could, yeah, Rich.
Yes, ma'am.
Bag that was inside of State's Exhibit 55 is 55A. And if you could go through the items that were in State's Exhibit 55A, the clear bag, and tell us what those items are.
There's some paperwork here that appears to be a list of medications for Jose Manuel Perez. There is a photograph that appears to be Mr. Perez with either friends or family. A photograph of the defendant and her 3 daughters. A photograph of the defendant. A Veteran Administration's card for Mr. Perez, a Capital One bank card for Mr. Perez, a military or Department of Defense identification card and privilege card for Mr. Perez, a Veterans Benefits card for Mr. Perez, another Department of Veteran Affairs ID with Mr. Perez's photo on it, Mr. Perez's Medicare and Medicaid card, a North Carolina driver's license with the image and name of Jose Perez, an AARP card with the name Jose Perez, a second card with that same name, a AAA card with the name Jose Manuel Perez, a Sam's Club card with the likeness of Mr. Perez and his name on it, the Social Security card for Jose Manuel Perez Enriquez, a bank card for First Premier Bank with the name Jose Perez, a State Employees Credit Union debit card with the name and likeness of Jose Perez, and a what appears to be an ID badge or access card for the United States Department of Veteran Affairs with the image of Mr. Perez.
And all of those things were found in the trash bag inside the trash bin in the garage of the Schoolhouse Road residence of this defendant and Mr. Perez.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, the state offers into evidence State's Exhibit 55, 55A, and contents.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Motion allowed.
There were a lot of other pieces of paper and things that were found in the house. A lot of them had to do with AA, didn't they?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were, in addition, some bank records and other things like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on all of the people that you interviewed, as well as people that were interviewed by Detective Weaver, you had come to know a fair amount about the defendant. Would that be fair?
That would be fair.
And you and Detective Weaver kept in contact with one another because you were the co-detectives on this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you became aware that, or you knew that she sang with the band, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that she was quite fond of music.
Yes, ma'am.
And that she had worked in some capacity on pageants for little kids.
Yes.
And you were aware that she had eating issues and kept a food diary.
Yes.
And that she made jewelry.
Yes.
And you were aware that she had been at one point a teacher,
Yes, ma'am.
and that some of the places that she went to for her AA meetings were places called the Camel Club
I believe I've heard that name before. Yes, ma'am.
and the Oasis,
Yes, ma'am.
and that her band had played, at least on one occasion, at a local bar called O'Dwyer's.
Yes, ma'am.
You were also aware, because you were present, that a taser was located in the garbage along with all the other stuff at the schoolhouse residence.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you asked for Mr. Brookerson from CCBI, who does the forensics on computers, when you requested that he look at the computer and see what was on there, did you tell him some of the information that you knew and that Detective Weaver knew, both about the case as you knew it at that point, as well as specifically about the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
And why would you do that when you're talking to a computer guy?
There are hundreds of thousands of files that may be contained on any given electronic device, especially a computer nowadays with the large sizes of hard drives and such. It is good to pass along as much information as you can about all of the parties involved in an investigation to whoever is going to do your forensic examination of the electronic device. That helps them look for certain keywords, certain types of information that would be beneficial to the investigation. You know, if you had specific information that somebody loved to collect recipes, you may put that and pass that information along so they can do searches for recipes. So similar to an investigation, the information that we derive from it, we would pass along to whoever is going to do the forensic examination so they can narrow their search, and then, if need be, you know, help them to find things a little bit easier. Yes, ma'am.
I'm placing in front of you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 47, and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, ma'am. State's Exhibit 47 is a document I prepared related to the examination of GPS records.
And is that the GPS that was found in the trash when you were participating in the search at 12412 Schoolhouse Road?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is the GPS that was entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 41, is that correct?
That is correct.
So tell us how you looked at the information on that GPS and what it is that you found.
GPS devices will sometimes retain files of the trips or waypoints or locations. If you've ever owned one, you may have a setting for home that tells you how to get back home. But sometimes during certain travels or whatever, some GPS devices are built such that they will retain files for a specific period of time automatically, sometimes because you want them to. It just depends on the settings that may be on that particular device. They are kept in the type of file that's specific to the GPS type devices, and what it does is it stores the waypoints or specific areas of travel as the device travels for that file. Good example would be if I were going to leave the Justice Center and drive home and I hit home, there would be certain points that the GPS device would receive communication, and you would be able to see my trail home if that file is maintained on the device.
And so what did you do in order to get the, or to view the information that was on the GPS that you got out of the trash in the garage at Schoolhouse Street?
Once Investigator Scott downloaded the file and provided it to us in an electronic format, I'm able to take and search various types of files for search dates. I look for search dates in and around the date of the death for Mr. Perez. I found a couple of files that were sitting for the 15th of June. At that point in time, I can take that file and download it into a form or a program such as Google Earth. Once that file is converted into Google Earth, it will show a series of waypoints and essentially show a route that device took for that particular file.
And when you looked at that electronic information in State's Exhibit 41, what were you able to determine?
I was able to determine that that GPS device traveled from Wake County to the area of Spartanburg, South Carolina on the 15th of June, and then had waypoints stored from Spartanburg, South Carolina to a point north of China Grove, North Carolina, heading back toward Wake County.
Were you able to determine from the information on the GPS what time the trip began in Wake County to heading toward South Carolina?
Yes, I could.
And what time did that trip begin?
8:43:47 according to the file.
And was there information stored on the GPS that indicated there was more than one stop?
Yes.
And what did it indicate about stops?
When you would look at these files, what will happen is the GPS, if it somehow, some GPSs are set up that if it detects a change in direction, it may start communicating more or trying to receive a signal more. And I noted that there were stops in Thomasville, North Carolina, and off the Billy Graham Parkway in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Is that on the way down?
That is on the way down. And then the first set of routing, or the routing file that I found, ended on Bryant Road and Landers Road near Spartanburg, South Carolina.
And would that have been where Billy Lopez was staying at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was further travel, Michelle Lopez Parrish was living.
File moves from the Bryant Road address, and then the file ends shortly thereafter.
Does the information on the GPS indicate a time at which was the trip back from South Carolina to North Carolina?
My looking at the file indicated that there was files from 12:47 p.m. to 8 p.m. and then at 2:38:10 p.m. the GPS left the area of Bryant Road and started heading north on I-85 Business back toward the North Carolina line.
And at some point during the trip back, does the GPS to Wake County, does it?
It does not.
And where did it cut off?
It ended just north of NC 152, which is just north of China Grove, North Carolina.
And for those of us who aren't as familiar as you might be, where is China Grove? How far would it be from the schoolhouse, approximately Schoolhouse Road?
That is probably going to put it very in Concord, or about 2 hours in travel.
And once the GPS cuts off in the area of China Grove on the return trip from Berg area in South Carolina, is there any other trip stored on the GPS for June 15th, 2015?
No, ma'am.
Any other information on the GPS, among the GPS data that you looked to do with her trip to the defendant's trip to South Carolina?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, the state offers into evidence State's Exhibit number 47, the report of the GPS tracking.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Motion allowed.
Detective Gay, you looked through, you said, the phone information phone information, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you did that, did you see a photograph of the defendant that was taken in South Carolina by Michelle Lopez Parrish?
I did.
And what, if anything, was remarkable to you about that photograph? States Exhibit 67.
The photograph of State Exhibit 67 is Billy Lopez and his son and the defendant holding a long rifle type firearm.
And what about what the defendant had on?
She is wearing blue jeans and what appears to be a dark blue or black t-shirt.
Anything remarkable about that clothing?
That clothing matches the clothing that was discovered in the trash can at 12412 at the garbage can.
Questions?
Witness with the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Gay.
Good afternoon.
I just have a few questions for you, sir. Whenever you got, whenever you determined the identity of Jose Perez, you started looking into his, pulling tax records and trying to find his address, because at that point in time, you guys didn't know anything about that.
Yes, sir.
And that's what led you eventually to the Schoolhouse Street address after you had checked the prior address that was shown and didn't find anything there.
I believe there were still 2 addresses showing under the name, and that's why we checked Queensland and then Schoolhouse.
And then Schoolhouse.
And to clarify, the Queensland address may have been from a DCI search or something, or it could be tax records or both, but it was part of the victimology that was done in the very beginning.
And so talk more about that. For victimology, you're just trying to get any kind of information you can, basically.
Absolutely. Victimology is just a concept of anytime you are dealing with a subject victim, you want to know as much as you can when they've been the victim of a crime and try to build up as much information as you can to look into their hobbies, backgrounds, marriages, all of those things along those lines just to help paint a better picture for the investigation.
And throughout your investigation in both, into both Ms. Madonna and Mr. Perez, did you ever find anything that was an indication that Mr. Perez was ever an attorney?
I do not believe I specifically did a search for that, but I do not remember hearing that was ever confirmed.
Okay. But you did hear from Ms. Madonna that she believed that he was an assistant district attorney.
I heard it at some point in time during the investigation, yes.
And you said you never were able to confirm that. Just in your investigation, that never came to pass to confirm or deny.
My part of the investigation did not look into the actual confirmation or lack thereof for that.
And you said just due to, I guess, it was probably things that Ms. Madonna had said and what you had learned about her reason and rationale for needing protection, that you looked into the crimes around that area to kind of verify or confirm or deny if there was any crime around the immediate vicinity of Ms. Madonna's house, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is that CAD report that we've been talking about.
Yes, sir.
And in your CAD report, you did find in the neighborhood, at least, that there was a breaking and entering of a motor vehicle and then a larceny of a building or in a building, correct?
I believe so.
And in pulling the CAD report for Ms. Madonna and her residence at Schoolhouse Street, you did find out that, and I believe you, in the CAD system, it does the year first, but on March the 12th of 2013, police were called to that address. And correct me if I'm wrong in the format of that as well.
And which day are you referring to, sir?
I believe it's March the 12th of 2013. It goes 13/3/12, but typically in the United States we don't do our
Yes.
dates like that.
I have that in front of me.
Okay, so that is 13/3/12, meaning March the 12th of 2013.
Yes, that would be correct.
And on that date, there was a trespassing call from that house where someone called the police and said there was a black male that they, I guess they were calling the police about.
Yes.
And the police were called and came immediately, and it appears that that black male was trespassed from the home at that point in time.
Yes, that indication is in there.
And additionally, just going back a little bit, on February the 3rd of 2013, there was a 911 call, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that phone call was in regards to a 64-year-old male being found unconscious, correct?
That is correct.
You were on the scene when we heard from Detective Snowden earlier this morning. I guess you were on the scene when he was talking about you guys all met up first and I guess assembled at the Wakefield High School, which is right around the corner from Miss Madonna's house, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you talked about the plan and the strategy and who was going to do what from whenever you gave this death notice, correct?
Yes, sir.
And eventually you guys went there. You saw Michelle was there, but her mother was not there. You called Miss Madonna, and she came home pretty quickly thereafter, correct?
Yes, we had Michelle call her mother, and she responded shortly thereafter.
And when Miss Madonna got there, she had immediately talked about she had asked Jose to leave before, and he had threatened suicide before, correct?
I believe at some point during that interaction, that conversation, that was mentioned. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And I know we've talked a little bit about the search warrant that you guys ended up needing. You said that Miss Madonna said you would need a search warrant. I've already talked to an attorney. You would need a search warrant to search my house, correct?
Yes, sir.
And because you guys didn't see any crime or criminal activity taking place right there and no one was in any imminent danger, that's legally correct, correct?
We did not detect an exigent circumstance right then. No, sir.
You did it better than me. You didn't have an exigent circumstance to go and search the house without either. You could have gotten her consent and that would have gone it, but you could have gone through it, but you just waited and got a search warrant and then you were able to search the house.
Yes, sir.
And during the time where you're waiting for the search warrant, the house is still secured by you guys, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's no way for anyone to get rid of evidence or start tampering with stuff because you're already in the house and you made sure that wasn't going to happen. But before you guys searched further, you waited for a search warrant.
Yes, sir.
And Miss Madonna and her children weren't allowed to freely go around the home at that point in time and do whatever they wanted to, correct?
No, sir.
And I believe that Rachel had come in at some point, and even though she wasn't there earlier, she had asked to maybe get a laptop or something like that, and she wasn't allowed to because you were waiting for that search warrant.
I do not. I never talked to Rachel, so I don't recall.
Okay, because there were a lot of officers out there and a lot of people that you ended up talking to throughout this investigation.
Yes.
Ms. Madonna also mentioned that Jose had been verbally abusive and started drinking. You said you didn't see any bottles at the home, but that's what Ms. Madonna said to you guys when she first appeared on the scene.
Yes, she made that statement, and we did not find anything on the scene at the residence.
At the residence. A lot of the stuff that you've talked about being in the garbage can, it was at the top of the garbage can, correct?
I could not say exactly what level it would be.
Okay.
On the garbage can. Myself and Investigator Barefoot stood close by while CCBI, for lack of a better term, excavated the trash can.
Okay.
So in whatever order they would pull the bag out, it would be the order that we would see the information or the items coming out.
And we've seen some pictures of that already, of them taking pictures before they excavated the stuff out of the trash can, so we can look at those pictures to kind
Yes,
of
sir.
verify where stuff was. And to your knowledge, was anything, nothing was burned or anything like that? Everything that you found and discovered as being relevant to this case was in that trash can?
Yes, I did not discover anything in the evidence that would indicate somebody tried to burn anything.
We saw all the meds that Jose, that you guys found in a bag in a trash can. A lot of those medicines and prescription bottles are duplicates, correct?
There do appear to be quite a few duplicates.
Okay. And I don't know, have you ever gone through each and every one of those pill bottles and seen when they were prescribed and when they expired and all that stuff?
I'm sure we may have documented some of that, but it was not anything that I prepared to report on.
Okay. And it was just all of his meds were sitting there, including insulin and vitamins and all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
So insulin, vitamins, I think there were even anti-diarrhea and stool softener, like all that stuff was sitting up there when we're talking about, in addition to other things, but all that was included in those dozens of pill bottles that we saw.
Yeah, there were quite a few medications.
And through your investigation, you found a lot of discarded paperwork that we've talked about, and then even paperwork that was found in the office area, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we heard some about the amount of money that Jose Perez was getting monthly from the government. I believe you said it was a little, maybe a little over $4,000 or $4,400, something like that.
That sounds relatively accurate.
Okay. And do you recall seeing any dates on those? Do you know when that period of time was active for him to receive that amount of money?
I believe it was on the documents I looked at earlier, but I'd have to see them again to give a specific date range.
Okay. And all of these documents obviously were preceding the date of June the 15th of 2013, correct?
Yes, I would assume that, yes.
And the amount of monies that Michelle was supposed to receive for school, that was before June 15th of 2013, correct?
I would probably have to see that item again to verify that. Could be.
But you took all those items and documents up at the same time.
Yes, I know they were collected. They were in a stack over to the side of the computer, and that's where most of them were collected from.
And obviously you've gone through Mr. Jose's financial situation and gotten bank records and issued subpoenas and things like that to look into his financial history, correct?
That's been done as part of the investigation. I did not do that.
You didn't do that? Okay.
That was another investigator.
All right, so you're not aware of his financial situation or any money that Jose will be entitled to or any benefits that anyone would be entitled to as a part of his passing?
Other than information that I might have heard in passing or in general office discussion, I have no specific review of any records.
And it appears from at least the document that you presented, that Mr. Perez was in the Army, or at least receiving, according to that documentation, Army benefits from 1968 to 1970. That's his term of service.
Once again, I'd have to look at the specific, but that sounds
That
fairly
sounds about
accurate.
correct. I'm not going to make you dig through it again. And that, I believe that document even says this may not be complete, but this is what we're showing on this document. You were in there from 1968 to 1970.
I do believe that there was a piece of paper that stated that.
And Mr. Perez, according to a different document, had reached the rank of E4.
Yes, sir.
Do you know anything about military ranks?
Yes, sir.
E4 is a relatively low rank for a short period of time, being in the military or enlisted officer, correct?
Depending on the branch of service, in the military, in the Army, it's usually like a corporal or a specialist.
Okay. And I believe in the Army, you start out at the E1, correct? As a private, as a E1.
That's my understanding.
Gotcha. The bracelet, the engagement rings, and the wedding bands were all found in that same trash can as well, or found in the trash as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
You talked some to Ms. Shandos about doing a computer search, correct? Or you didn't do the computer search, but we've got that computer there, and it was sent to the person in the Wake County Sheriff's Office that goes through the computer hard drive and then, I guess, assists you in your investigation of the crime, correct?
It was sent to CCBI.
Okay. And that, once you send it to CCBI, that's when you say, hey, we found a taser, look for a taser or look for any reference to a taser on the computer. So you kind of, I guess, leading the investigation that way of things that they may need to be on the lookout for.
Most circumstances in a computer search is going to be relative to a search warrant. Some information will be completed and contained in that search warrant. As a matter of just principle and professionalism, we would probably speak with whoever's going to do the actual examination and give them the opportunity to ask questions about what may or may not be in the search warrant, if there's anything extra specific we're looking for, a phrase we're looking for. But yes, we would do that.
And that's just to assist in the investigation, because computers at this point have thousands of terabytes of information that it would take to go through, and it's kind of looking like for a needle in a haystack unless you're looking for something specific, correct?
Yes, sir. It kind of expedites the process of being able to find
What you're looking for.
potential evidentiary value.
I know we talked some about, at some point in time, you said you had gotten information that Miss Madonna and Jose had gone to a dollar store or a store with a dollar in it at some point, correct? And you're aware there's a dollar store, there's a Dollar General, there's a Family Dollar. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, but just a whole, I guess, grouping of stores with dollar in their name that were somewhat similar discount stores, correct?
Yes.
And there are a good number of stores in that area off US 1 and then off US 1 and close to Miss Madonna's house, correct?
I believe through the searches, to clarify, the information that was initially given to me was the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
So my first search searched for a store named the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
I located the one in Wake Forest in addition, because that one was in close proximity to Wake Forest, and the crime scene technically would be considered potentially Wake Forest. I also checked the Dollar General in Wake Forest proper, as I would call it.
And you checked the Dollar General outside, even though you got the information about the dollar store, just because you said, hey, someone could have got it lost in translation, or they could be saying the dollar store when they mean the Dollar General or something like that.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And are you aware that there's a Family Dollar off of, and this may be outside your jurisdiction, so correct me if I'm wrong, but right past the Wake County line up in Franklin County off US 1?
Possible. I don't get up there very often.
All right. And, well, just to be, how far is Miss Madonna's home from the Franklin County line?
Depending on traffic and the route of travel, a rough estimate would be 15 minutes.
Okay. And that's, you could take right up US 1 / Capitol Boulevard, would lead you in that direction.
Yes, sir.
You ended up doing an interview with John Chadwick Richardson. Do you remember what day or how long after this event that occurred? And I can help you out a little. Does it fair to say June the 26th of 2013?
That sounds fairly accurate.
Okay. So maybe 10 days after the incident occurred.
Yes, roughly.
And at that point in time, did you guys already know that Miss Madonna had contact with him? What led you to talk to Mr. Richardson?
Part of the electronic investigation was also telephone numbers, information that was located on her phone, Facebook information. Some of the information that was gathered through interviews indicated potential names, so additional searches were done and to try to identify that person, and through that, Mr. Richardson was identified.
Because just looking through, I believe you guys got Miss Madonna's phone fairly early on in the process, correct?
Yes.
And it's not hard for you to plug her phone in and do the Cellbrite, I guess, download. It just takes a few hours with most phones. Some phones would take longer, but
It depends on the phone and who may be operating the Cellbrite machine.
okay. And in Miss Madonna's phone, you already had that information, and you were able to see who she was calling earlier in that day. And obviously, anyone that she had talked to, text, or called that day, important to talk to.
Yes, I believe part of the reason.
And he had even let you know that Miss Madonna talked about her husband Jose, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she had talked to him about wanting to get separated from.
Just the way I noted it was that
And like we've already heard, these things that she disclosed to Mr. Richardson were during their therapy sessions, correct?
he indicated, yes, that there may have been conversations prior to and maybe after.
And he indicated to you, I think he let you guys know during your interview with him that he was concerned because he was afraid of losing his job or losing his licensure because this kind of stuff getting out, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I believe initially you guys recorded this video with him, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in this video, as he starts going through his phone, he kind of, before he hands the phone over to you, he kind of gives you a warning. It's like, hey, you're going to see some text messages in here that will let you know that this was, I guess we were more involved than just a therapy situation. And he kind of gave you a disclaimer before he handed the phone over to you, correct?
I haven't watched the video in a little bit, but that sounds, yes, I would say that's probably accurate.
Because he was concerned about this getting on the news and getting on TV, and I guess you guys even told him at that point, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about that. But you know, he was being polite and cooperative and participating in the investigation with you at that point, correct?
Yeah, he was very polite and cooperative the entire time, and yes, he was concerned about his professional status.
He did talk to you about their interactions on the day after. And on the video, you said you haven't watched the video recently.
No, sir, I haven't.
But do you recall him talking to you about he was trying to get some more kisses in and that Miss Madonna shut him down on that and wasn't wanting to do that? I know it's not reflected in your report, but does that sound familiar from?
I know that there was something stated along the lines of that during a kiss or after a kiss or something, that there was immediate conversation about that, you know, being careful or not doing anything until the time was right or something along those lines. It may have been, I'd have to review that video to make sure that I understood exactly how it was phrased or
Okay.
when who said who.
And Mr. Richardson had said on the day before that Miss Madonna had communicated to him that she was planning on asking Jose to leave that day.
Yes, sir.
And I believe through your investigation, you saw text messages going back and forth, and she indicated to Chad, Mr. Richardson, that she was in South Carolina or going to South Carolina, and what she planned to do when she got back and things like that, correct?
I believe she had told us she was going to South Carolina.
Yes, sir. You said that the GPS was it started, yeah, I guess the first report back to you at 8:43 on that morning, that Saturday morning.
Yes, sir.
And do you have a location of where that GPS pickup started?
Area of I-540, just west of Leesville Road.
And then that GPS takes a normal or traditional route down to Spartanburg, South Carolina area, correct?
Actually, no.
Okay, what was interesting about it?
Based on my travels throughout the state, my direct route would have been to take 540 to Interstate 40 to the 85 juncture and head south.
Okay.
The GPS shows a track of going north up US 70, past TW Alexander, into Durham, up NC 147, and hitting I-85 on the other side of Durham.
Have you ever been in pulled up a GPS or used some kind of map system where it gives you a route that you know is completely out of the way?
I have had a GPS device give me an out-of-the-way trip sometimes, yes.
All right. And the stops that she took later could have been bathroom breaks or food breaks or anything like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
There were no turns or, I guess, going off the beaten path
No, the couple
outside
of,
of that.
the
that
couple
weird
of stops
intersection.
were just a few minutes long and relatively close to the interstate.
And you said the GPS turned off, or the last location information you have from it is about 2:47 that afternoon. Is that correct?
I've got it at 4:25.
Oh, excuse me, 4:25 that afternoon. And was that when you said the GPS was last picking up outside of China Grove, North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
And China Grove, North Carolina, it's a little north of Kannapolis and Charlotte on I-85.
Yes, sir.
So that's a normal, regular route back from Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And if the GPS turned off, would it be, in your experience, once you're getting back in the area you know, and you're out of Charlotte and all those roundabouts and stuff like that, that you could turn your GPS off because you know which way you're going at that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, all she was, the whole route back to her home was, could have been just taking 85 all the way back to her home for the most
Sure.
part. Just a couple of final questions, Detective. Mr. Richardson described to you times where him and Joanna Madonna would just take a ride out in the car and go through the country and drive around sometimes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And his indications to you were they had only kissed that one time and you even asked him more specifically, like, tell me what kind of kiss this was, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was similar to what he testified on the stand, that it was just a peck and it happened that one time.
Yes, sir.
And he indicated to you that none of this texting or flirtation or anything like that happened until after their, their therapy relationship was supposed to end.
That sounds accurate.
and that was for about 3 weeks to a month before this incident occurred.
That sounds accurate.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Better act.
Did you find Jose Perez's AA coins?
I did not.
Were you aware that they'd been found in the trash in the master bedroom?
I was made aware of that later on, yes.
And you said that you had received information that the defendant and Mr. Perez had gone to the dollar store before she drove them to Old Bay Leaf Road and killed him.
Objection, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Oh,
Yes.
That information that she'd gone to, specifically the dollar store that you were given, that information came from the defendant, didn't it?
That's my understanding.
I have no other questions.
any problem?
No.
Thank you, sir. You can stand down. Any objection with him being released from his suspension?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Any objection from after suspension?
No, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch and recess at this point. During our lunch and recess period, it is your duty not to talk among yourselves about this case. It's your duty not to talk to the parties, the witnesses, or the lawyers about anything at all. It's your further duty not to talk to anyone else, to allow anyone else to talk with you, to say anything in your presence about this case. If anyone communicates with you, provides you any information at all in any form about this case, you need to let the sheriff know about it when you come back. Avoid reading, watching, listening to any accounts of this trial. Do not do any independent research or investigation on your own about any issue touching on this trial. Stay away from your smartphones. And do not form or express an opinion about this case during this time. With that, ladies and gentlemen, while everyone else will remain seated, I'll excuse the 13 of you and ask that you return and assemble the jury room at 2:15 this afternoon. 2:15. That's your excuse.